You know what blows my mind? The first person to map the treacherous Sikkim Himalaya wasn't even a professional explorer. He was a botanist who ended up getting imprisoned during his expedition.
That's fascinating. You're talking about Sir Joseph Hooker in the 1840s, right? What made him take on such a dangerous mission?
Well, Hooker spent 2 incredible years documenting everything he encountered, and here's what's wild. He did this with basically no infrastructure or modern equipment. We're talking about navigating glaciers and peaks over 20,000 feet with equipment that would make today's climbers laugh.
And I understand he actually got thrown in prison during this expedition.
Oh, yeah. He and Dr. Campbell were detained by Sikkim's prime minister, and you know what's really interesting? That incident actually led to the British annexing a huge portion of Sikkim. Like, one botanical expedition literally changed the political map of the region.
The political consequences are quite something. But what really gets me is how they managed to map these territories with such accuracy using such basic tools.
Right. And speaking of mapping, let me tell you about these incredible surveyors called the Pandits. One of them, Rinzen Namgyal, actually crossed some of the most dangerous passes in the region, like the Kongla into Nepal, and mapped territories that no Westerner had ever seen.
Well, that must have required some serious skill and determination, especially considering the altitude and weather conditions they were dealing with.
You know what's really wild? Take Dr. A.M. Kellas. This guy conquered multiple peaks over 22,000 feet, often climbing solo with just a few local porters. We're talking about Chomyomo at 22,430 feet, Dongya Peak at 23,180 feet. And he did this while conducting scientific research on high-altitude physiology.
So he was combining serious scientific work with these incredible climbing achievements?
Exactly. And here's something most people don't know. Kellas was actually quite modest about his achievements. He wrote detailed papers about the science of high-altitude climbing, but barely mentioned his own remarkable ascents. Sadly, and this is where it gets really poignant, he died on his way to attempt Mount Everest.
The human stories behind these expeditions really bring them to life, don't they?
Oh man, like the Norwegian climbers Rubensson and Monrad Aas in 1907. Get this. Rubensson had never climbed a mountain before attempting Kabru, which is over 24,000 feet. They spent 12 days above 20,000 feet and nearly died when Rubensson slipped and almost fell to his death.
That's absolutely incredible. The sheer audacity of attempting something like that with no prior experience.
And you know what really stands out in all these accounts? The evolution of the relationship between Western climbers and Sherpa porters. It went from this initial skepticism to complete recognition of their crucial role. Like, these expeditions literally wouldn't have been possible without their expertise.
The mountains haven't gotten any smaller since then. What do you think about modern climbing attempts in the region?
Well, here's what's fascinating. Even today, with all our fancy modern equipment and satellite mapping, only about half a dozen of Sikkim's countless peaks have been successfully climbed. There are still valleys and regions that remain largely unexplored.
So these early achievements seem even more remarkable in that context.
Exactly. And you know what really gets me? The fundamental challenges these pioneers faced, the weather, the altitude, the physical demands, they're exactly the same ones that modern climbers face today. Like, you can have the best Gore-Tex jacket in the world, but when a storm hits at 23,000 feet, you're still at the mercy of the mountain.
That really puts these historical achievements in perspective, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and here's my final thought. These early explorers showed us that with the right combination of skill, determination, and respect for the mountain environment, what seems impossible becomes possible. As the article concludes, no one should ever definitively say that any peak in the Sikkim Himalaya is unconquerable. These pioneers proved that the human spirit of exploration knows no bounds.